3, 2, 1, let's go! Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the classList object. Yes, that wonderful object on DOM elements that allows you to add, subtract, and do a whole bunch of wonderful things with all the class names inside of the class attribute. Want to see how it works? Well, let's get started. What is a classList object? Well, it's nothing more than a DOM token list. What's a DOM token list? Well, it's nothing more than a list of tokens within the DOM. Hey! Well, in our particular case, it's nothing more than the list of all the classes that have been applied to the class attribute. So before I show you what classList does, let's review very quickly what the class attribute does on elements. I've got an element here, and I'm going to add the class attribute, and that's simply all it is. And every word that I add inside here will usually describe how this particular element is going to be displayed in the browser. And that is usually defined either with the style element or more likely within a CSS file. And I've got my CSS file here. And I have defined two class names here, one called red and one called green, who simply basically says that if I have the word red inside the class, it will display the color red for the font color of the H1. If I have green here, it will display the text as the color green. Now, of course, I can have multiple classes. I can have the word green inside here, which will be what we're looking for, you know, green or red. I can have large, and that may be defined somewhere saying, hey, make the text larger. I can have underline, and that may say, hey, underline the text. I can have foobar, and I can say whatever foobar does. But anyway, classList basically says, okay, I have now 4 tokens within my class attribute: green, large, underline, and foobar. So that's what the classList does, is it gives you a listing of all the different classes in that class attribute so that you can then manipulate them in a whole bunch of different ways, which we'll show you here in just a minute. So that's all we're going to be taking a look at. So just real quickly, you know, hey, I've got a class of green in there. You want to see what it actually does? Let's flip back over to our browser. If I do a Control F5, I should expect my H1 to turn green, and it sure did. There it is. If I go back over to the code, I also have red defined. So if I type in red there, and let's flip back over to the browser, it should turn red if I do a Control F5. And oh, yep, it did. It turned red. So that's what a class does. classList contains all the different classes in the class attribute. Now let's take a look at 4 different methods that we're going to be showing you on the classList. Let's take a look at the first one next. So let's first take a look at the add method. What do you think the add method does? That's right. It adds classes to the class attribute on that particular element. It could take up to a gazillion arguments, at least one argument, and each argument, one after another, is a string that is added to the class attribute of that particular element. And so on my little demo here, what I'm going to be doing is I have a zoo, and underneath that zoo is going to display different pictures of animals that I type in inside the add. And underneath classes, it's going to list out each of the class names that are currently associated with the zoo. So if I type in, you know, something like lion, and then click on go and add the lion, I can also do multiple ones by splitting it up. Scorpion. I can't spell scorpion. It will also add multiple ones if I put a comma delimited list there. And now let me show you the code here real quick on how that is going to work. So let's go over to the code. Here is my zoo. And all the zoo has each of the different animals that we can add inside there are located within the zoo: the crab, lion, scorpion, and so on and so forth. And I have the classes here. And the classes will list out all the different classes that are associated with zoo. So let's now take a look at the add method. Let's flip back over to our JavaScript. And here is the add method itself. Now it can take, again, at least one argument and as many arguments as you can throw inside there. So what I've done is I've taken the input of the input element that I've typed in there, and I split it by comma because I want to be able to put in multiple ones there. That's going to create an array. Even if I just had one argument, that's going to create an array. So what I'm passing now to the add method here is I'm deconstructing the array so that each element of the array is set off as an argument to the method itself here. So if I had, you know, lion and owl inside there, what would actually happen is I would have an array of lion and owl. What would actually get passed would be something like this. classList.add lion owl. That's what would actually get passed there, and that's what that ... class name is all about there. Just deconstructs the array. So that will allow me to put, animal, animal as far as I want to on there, and then we'll add all of those animals at one time. But the key here is that the add method will add at least one class, and if you type in more attributes, it will add all of those different class names into the class attribute. Then what I'm going to do is it's going to print classes, and that little section is right up here. And the print classes part of here will basically say, okay, I'm going to take the class list of zoo and I'm going to go through all the different values. And this is just a little iterator that is available to you from the class list that says, okay, here are all the different classes that you have to find inside the class attribute. And so all I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert all of that into the LI, so to kind of give you a list there of all of the different classes that are associated with zoo, because I don't have it set up here to be able to show you from debuggers or anything like that how it's done. So this is just going to list out all the different classes. So that's what the add method does. Let's see if it actually works. Let's flip back over first of all to there so I can have my list in front of me. Let's go over to the Boring JavaScript, and let's first of all add in the crab. That'd be a good one to add in. So we type in crab inside add. If we hit go, let's see what happens. And aha, there we go. I get my little crab. The span, because I have added crab to my zoo, because there's the crab right there, it shows I actually have a crab class on my zoo. Because I've added that in, the span for the crab is now active. How about an owl? Let's pop an owl inside there. Yep, there's an owl. Well, how about multiple ones? Remember, it's a common delimited list here, so let's do lion and let's do bat. I haven't seen the bat yet, comma bat. We go over to go. Yep, it added the lion and the bat in. So now I've got 4 classes in my zoo: the crab, the owl, the lion, and the bat. And all of those are available through you to the add method. And again, the add method will add different classes to your class attribute. At least you can have multiple arguments there. You'll always add the first argument. If you have multiple arguments, I'll just add them in one after another. Next, let's take a look at the remove method, which, guess what it does? It takes them away. That's next. Next, let's take a look at the remove method, which of course removes classes from the class attribute. Now, I've got my old stuff up here, so I still have crab, owl, lion, and bat, and we'll be using those to be able to remove some of them. But let's take a look at the code first. Here is the code for the remove method. It is simply remove, and it takes the exact same arguments as add does. It will take at least one argument, but it can take multiple arguments, and it will attempt to remove each and every single one of those classes from the class attribute. If it happens not to find it, then it just continues on. There's no error or anything like that, so you can safely put a word in there that is not found in your class list, and it will just keep on going if it happens not to find it. And just like before, since it does take multiple arguments, I get the value of the input and split it up by commas into an array, and then I use the deconstructing array to be able to deconstruct it into different arguments. Just the same way as before we did with the add. So let's take a look back out to our browser, and let's try to remove the owl. So if I go to the remove section and I type in owl and I go to go, that should remove the owl from the zoo, which basically means it should remove the owl icon there, but also remove owl from the classes. So once we hit go, yep, sure enough, it's exactly what it is. We removed the owl and we got rid of the owl. Well, how about the lion? Let's remove the lion. Let's click on go. Remove the lion. Well, how about a common delimited list? Well, we only got 2 left in there. But just to kind of show you, I'm going to remove crab, bat, and lion. Now, of course, lion is not there, so, what will happen? Well, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to pretty much ignore lion. Yep, now there's absolutely nothing left inside the zoo. All the animals have escaped. And that's what remove does. Real simple, just takes those classes out of the class list. Next, let's take a look at a way you can toggle a particular class on and off, and that's with the toggle method. That's next. So now let's take a look at the toggle method. And basically that takes one argument. So unlike the remove and add, one argument is all you can put in there. And if that particular token is not inside the class attribute, it adds it in. If it is already inside the class attribute, it takes it off. So if you call the toggle method on the same token again, over and over and over again, it'll just constantly put it into the class attribute and take it back out. Put it in and take it out and blah, blah, and all that kind of fun stuff. So let me show you the code. Let's flip over to the code, and there is the toggle. And again, one argument is all it takes. So all I'm doing here is I'm just getting the value of the input. I'm not splitting it by comma or anything like that. I don't want an array. I just want the raw string. And I'm just saying toggle. And that's it. That's all it is. So again, it's going to look at that class attribute, and if class name is not inside that class attribute, it adds it in. If it is inside the class attribute, it takes it back out. Let's take a look at it in the browser. So let's toggle our lion. He likes to go in and out of the zoo. So if I click on go here, lion is currently not in the class list, so I should expect my lion to appear both under my zoo and inside the class list. Yep. Sure enough, it does. Well, if I hit go again, lion is inside the zoo and inside the class list, so I assume it should be taken out, right? Yep, sure does. I mean, this is the very definition of toggle, everybody. So as you can tell, it's real simple and easy to use. Now, does it affect anything else besides just the token that it's working with? Well, of course not. So let's add bat in. And let's just do it this way. Let's add bat at the top. Let's add our owl in. And then let's take the lion. Now the lion wants to come back into the zoo, or is the lion in? We're going to use the toggle on the lion, so if we click on go, the lion comes back into the zoo. If we click on go again, the lion is back out. So you can tell it does not affect any of the other classes within the class list. And that's all there is for toggle. Put it in, take it out, real simple, real easy to use. Next, we're going to show you a method you can use to find out if you have a certain class within your element, and that's next. And finally, let's take a look at the contains method. And the contains method will test to see if a class exists within the class attribute. And it just takes one argument, just like the toggle, but unlike the remove or the add. So what I'll be doing here is I'll be typing in my animal inside the contains input, clicking on go, and that should tell me whether that particular animal is within my zoo. And what it will do is that it will highlight in red the icon within the zoo and the text underneath the classes. So let's see how that works. Here is your contains method. Again, it takes one argument only. So I am just getting the straight input from the get the straight value from the input and passing that to the contains. If that particular token is within the class attribute, it will return true. If it is not within the class attribute, it returns false. So all I've done here is that if it is true, then I'm going to return a variable called I'm going to put the class name inside a variable called highlight. Otherwise, I'm going to put nothing inside the highlight. And then that's going to call print classes like everything else has been doing, but this time without highlight argument. And what happens at that point? Well, what happens at that point is that it will put the class name within the LIs as it's listing out, and that will automatically put a bright red background to whatever animal I happen to be highlighting. And then I'm going through each one of the spans underneath the zoo, and if it happens to be highlighted, I add the class of highlight to the span. Otherwise, I remove the class of highlight to the span. So that should put the little red highlight behind the icons. And you can tell that by the classList CSS, that if I do the classList CSS here is my CSS class itself, where basically I say now, hey, if the span has the highlight class, give it a background color of red and make the color white too. And the same thing with the LI. Let me flip the LI here. The LI is doing the exact same thing, is that if the LI has the highlight class, then give it a bright red background. So let's see how it works. So again, contains will tell us if something is within the class. So let's add some classes. Let's add bat, lion, and fox. I don't think I've done fox yet. So there's my bat, my lion, and my fox. So in contains, I want to find out if it contains a particular animal. So let's see if it contains an owl. And I click on go. Nothing happened. And why did nothing happen? Because owl isn't inside there. But if I do something, let's say lion, for example, and I click on go, woo, there you go. See, The lion is now highlighted in red, as is the bat. So now if I now go to bat, I'm sorry, yeah, it's yeah, both of them are highlighted in red. So if I go to bat, the bat's now highlighted. If it says contains fox, let's see if it contains fox. Fox is now highlighted. So that's what contains does. Contains will return a true or false if that particular token is involved with the class attribute. And that covers our add, remove, our toggle, and contains. Now, a class list has a few more wonderful little things you can do. Like earlier I did the values, which gave me an iterable for all of the different classes. So I strongly suggest taking a look at classList, and actually more specifically the DOM token list within Documentation Online, and it'll give you everything you want to know about classList. And that's all there is for using the classList. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope it didn't bore you to death. Please take a look at all of our videos at www.boringjavascript.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out everything we have at www.thevirtuoid.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.